Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and I have finally broken down, and today we are going to talk all about the pets. When it comes to BCB, one of the things that often gets overlooked is the pets, and it's understandable. They haven't been in the comics since Lucy left, which was about a year in universe. In real time, that's about 1 billion years. So today we are going to stop overlooking these characters and see what their importance was, what their role was, and are they sorely missed in modern BCB? Could they still work? So get your dogs, get your cats, and come together, because today we are going to be talking about the pets. The pets have been a part of BCB since the early years in 2006, and each would get their own introductory chapters. I did reviews on them way back in the day, but to run you down on them, Yashi was the first to be found by Lucy during 3rd grade, when she was a mere egg. Soon hatching, she provided Lucy company while Mike and Sandy were lost in each other's eyes. But it also gave Lucy a little bit more dimensionality. She takes care of lost or injured animals, and Yashi sees her as her mother. Yashi would also become the first Mike x Lucy shipper, as she always encouraged Mike and Lucy to get together, in her own Yashi type way at least. Any girl that so much as looked at Mike was branded as a whore, especially Daisy. Yashi isn't all prickly though. She would also try her best to comfort Lucy on Silvershore after Mike falls off the bridge. She is also the one who saved Chirpy's mom and Chirpy as an egg from being eaten by a snake. There's also something noteworthy in Unfulfilled Fantasy, where Lily uses Yashi to make a point to Mike that you shouldn't spend your time pining for a life that never happened. Yashi explains she doesn't care about her birth mother, as Lucy is the only mother she knows, and she wouldn't have it any other way. Pretty insightful little green blob. But the most important thing is that Yashi never knew about Mike and Sandy. It wasn't until Just Beautiful did Lucy spill the beans about her. Yashi tries her best to get Lucy and Mike talking again, but it blows up in her face. It crushes her, and this is admittedly a pretty emotionally charged scene. You really do feel bad for the pets here. This would be the last time Yashi played a major part in BCB. After that, she faded away along with the rest of the pets, only making a brief appearance and breaking up to say goodbye. And the next one to be introduced on the timeline is Chirpy. As I mentioned, Yashi saves her life before it had even started. Chirpy's mother flew off in a panic, and Yashi took it upon herself to look after her. This causes Chirpy to see Yashi as her mom. She is just your typical cutesy kawaii uwu desu anime type bird character. Later on in the comic, all the way in Witch Hunt, and several years after she hadn't been in the comic, Lucy reveals that Chirpy found her mother and that her real name was Amber. I guess her mom named her before she was born, or knew that she was going to be a girl somehow, or maybe she had a boy name lined up too? Wait, what? Chirpy does have a little moment with Mike at a Christmas party where the Korat vents on her about missing Sandy and kinda throws it in her face. This upsets Chirpy, understandably, who was abandoned by her mother, and she flies off through the party and hurts herself. Chirpy doesn't really do much. I think the most notable thing she does is that she flies to find help with Blur when Mike falls in Silvershore. In addition to seeing Yashi as her mother, she sees Blur as sort of her father. She doesn't seem to understand that Yashi can't fly. I guess Chirpy is just another notch in Lucy's support network. Last but not least, let's talk about Blur and Lily, and this is a 2-for-1 deal. One day, Mike gets caught up in a storm after being kicked out of Lucy's house and comes across a small hedgehog dragging an unconscious bird from a flaming tree. Doesn't get much more dramatic than that, I guess. Mike helps the two of them up and takes them to the one place he knows that can help them, Lucy's house. While Lucy helps Blur, Mike and Lily get acquainted, and Lily explains she's just a traveler that happened to be by when the tree caught fire. Blur does come too and has no memories. He doesn't even know his own name. The interesting thing about Blur is that it allows us to see an immaturity in Mike, on top of all the other stuff. You see, when he finds Blur and Lily, Mike is adamant he gets to keep Blur because Lucy has a lot of pets already. Lucy, obviously better equipped to take care of them, is apprehensive, but Mike insists. Mike goes to talk to Blur and sits on the table he is on, causing it to break, which almost hurts Blur. He was more interested in the idea of having a pet than the responsibility of one. Later on, after Blur has settled down in his new life, Yashi plays a little too rough with him while he tries to teach Chirpy to fly. This leads to him exclaiming his mind's all a blur and, well, the rest is history. He isn't too keen on the name, but it stuck. And to bring things back to Lily, she's played a major role between the two, offering guidance and support where she can, and being a voice of reason. She was initially going to move on from them, only there to help Blur, but she grew a soft spot for Mike and Lucy. And it's Lily that talks Mike through his feelings for Sandy and Lucy, helping him realize that he should be grateful for the life he has, not pining for the one that never happened. Which doesn't last long, granted, but it was still a good conversation to have. She also takes charge in the dire situation after Mike falls in Silvershore, gathering the group and making a plan. But the pets were more or less kept to minor gags, and eventually they left the comic with Lucy, never to be seen again. The last page with the pets that wasn't a flashback, which only happens twice after, is chapter 75, Breaking Up, page 21. This was uploaded on June 13th, 2013, making it over 10 years since they were last featured. Blur makes a flashback cameo in the next chapter, Leaving Home, where Mike tells Sandy a friend left. The next time a pet cameos / they are mentioned is in chapter 105, Witch Hunt, which actually explains where the pets are. Because you see, when Lucy returned, the pets did not, leaving many to wonder where they were. It was never explained until Sue asks. More proof that Sue is best girl. Lucy explains that Yashi was too uncomfortable to come back to Roseville, and Blur didn't want to leave her behind. Lily decided to stay and watch over them all, and now they act as surrogate children for Lucy's aunt, who never had any. Interesting. And this is where we learn about Chirpy being reunited with her mother and being named Amber and yada yada yada. I'm just happy that a story thread finally got a conclusion, even if it is just for one of the pets. And this is the last time the pets have ever been mentioned. It has been over 4 years since then. And so now we are tasked with answering a few questions. Were the pets ever really that important? What role did they serve? Is the comic better off without them? Will they ever come back? The thing about the pets is that they were a product of their time when they were written. They represent a time when the comic was a little more carefree and a little less grounded. They act as more of the animal sidekick trope than part of the main cast. Lily does provide some good life lessons, but that's about it. Yashi plays an important role in Lucy's life, acting as her friend when times were tough. But she could have just as easily been replaced with any other character, kinda like what happens when Lucy returns when Sue is trying to be a good friend to her. Honestly, I don't know if I can say the comic is better off without them or not, but it seems as though the direction Teshi wants to take the comic is more or less to a more serious and grounded place, and the talking hedgehogs and birds and weird blob looking Yoshi things would just clash with that. It's more characters you have to write in an increasingly larger cast, and they would just weigh things down. Plus, with the extra characters now, Teshi doesn't really need to rely on the pets to give Lucy a support network. And on the subject, if they will ever come back or not, that is totally up in the air. I would like to think that they will return by the end, but who knows? There doesn't appear to be any sign of them coming back, and Lucy never has a moment where she misses them outside of the one time in Witch Hunt. It's really all up to Teshi, but I would put money on them being back at least in the final chapter. If there ever is a final chapter. It would also be remiss if I didn't at least mention the discrepancy when it comes to the treatment of the pets in the BCB universe. Pets like Yashi and the rest are more or less treated as equals to the rest of the cast, even if Yashi is frustrated that she can't go to school because she's a pet. I find it hilarious at all the freedom she has, and yet she sits next to the class pet that is in a cage and complains. How come some pets are forced to live in a cage and others roam free? We're not meant to think about it too much. Like I said, the pets come from a more carefree and less grounded time. But one more very important question has yet to be asked. Who is the best pet? Well, that would have to be Tessa's pet pygmy flying squirrel Jefferson. I guess one more thing to mention is that the pets do seem to have a dedicated fan base, with there even being a Discord server dedicated to them. It's not very active though, for obvious reasons. Most of the conversation is about two kinds these days. With all that being said, what do you guys make of the pets? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.